The morning began like any other. I woke up to the soft hum of the city, the sunlight peeking through the blinds in my modest Brooklyn apartment. The coffee pot sputtered to life as I stood in the kitchen wearing my worn-out gray robe, staring at nothing in particular. At 37, divorced, and in a job that barely stirred any emotion in me anymore, I had grown used to the monotony. My name is Natalie Brooks, and I had convinced myself that this was just how life was supposed to feel: quiet, functional, and somewhat empty. But life, as I would soon learn, had other plans. It started with a knock on my door that Saturday morning. I wasn't expecting anyone. My best friend, Madison, usually texted before stopping by. But when I opened the door, there she was, beaming, sunglasses perched on her head, holding a bag of fresh bagels and 2 iced lattes. Madison Thompson had been my rock since college. She was vibrant, confident, and had an uncanny knack for knowing exactly when I needed her. "I brought carbs and caffeine," she said, stepping past me into the apartment like she owned the place. 2 things no depressed woman can say no to. I chuckled despite myself. "I'm not depressed." She arched a brow. "You're wearing the robe again, Nat." Okay, maybe she had a point. We sat on the couch, the smell of cinnamon raisin bagels and the sweet bitterness of coffee cutting through the stale energy of my apartment. Madison looked around, her eyes lingering on the half-folded laundry and empty takeout boxes. "You need a break," she said. "A real one. Not scrolling on your couch for 6 hours. "I'm fine," I insisted. But she wasn't convinced. And truthfully, neither was I. That's when she told me about her brother, Ethan. "He's staying at the lake house for a while," she said. "Just got back from his latest deployment. You remember Ethan, right?" I did. Vaguely. He had been at her birthday party a few years ago, quiet and thoughtful, with those dark eyes that seemed to observe everything. He was polite but distant, a Marine who had seen too much and spoke too little. I remembered thinking he was handsome in a kind of rugged, real-world way. "What about him?" I asked, sipping my latte. "He's offered to let you stay with him for a few days. Said you could use the peace and quiet." "I barely know him." "Exactly," she smirked. "No one to vent to. Just trees, water, quiet. And him." I should have said no. I should have resisted. But something in her tone made me pause. It wasn't just the offer. It was the knowing way she said it, like she had seen something in me I hadn't admitted to myself yet. 2 days later, I found myself throwing a duffel bag into the trunk of Madison's car, on my way to a secluded lake house 3 hours north. Ethan greeted me on the porch in a plain gray t-shirt and jeans, his sleeves pushed up to reveal forearms dusted with scars and sun. He nodded a welcome and took my bag without a word. The house was rustic but cozy, warm wooden beams, soft leather couches, and a fireplace that made the whole place smell like cedar. "You okay with the guest room downstairs?" he asked. "Perfect," I replied. That first evening passed in near silence. He made dinner, grilled salmon and asparagus, and we ate on the deck while the sun dipped below the trees. I learned he'd been overseas twice in the past 5 years. I didn't pry. He didn't offer much. But there was a calm in his presence, a steadiness I hadn't felt in years. The next morning, I woke to the sound of birds and the smell of bacon. Ethan was in the kitchen, barefoot, flipping pancakes with the ease of a man who had learned to make the best of solitary life. He didn't speak much, but he smiled when he saw me. Soft, genuine smile. "Hungry?" he asked. "Starving." As the days passed, something shifted. I began to feel lighter. Mornings were spent walking the trail around the lake, afternoons reading on the dock. Evenings became our quiet routine of shared meals and soft music. We didn't talk much, but we didn't need to. It was as if he knew the exact amount of silence I needed to feel safe, to process, to breathe. One night, a storm rolled in. Thunder cracked across the sky, and the power flickered out just after sunset. I stood in the kitchen holding a candle when Ethan walked in, handing me a blanket. "You okay with the dark?" he asked. I nodded, even though I wasn't sure. He lit a fire, and we sat in front of it, the only sound the rain tapping against the windows. I finally opened up, about the divorce, the loneliness, the way I had been going through the motions without feeling anything at all. I hadn't planned to, but the words came anyway, tumbling out in waves. Ethan listened. Really listened. He didn't interrupt. Didn't try to fix it. Just nodded occasionally. His gaze fixed on the flames. When I finished, he looked at me with such clarity, such understanding, I felt my throat tighten. "You're not broken, Natalie," he said. "You're just tired of pretending you're okay." That night, I slept better than I had in months. The next morning I found fresh flowers on the table. Wildflowers. Picked by hand. "They reminded me of you," Ethan said, then disappeared out to the porch like it was nothing. By the end of the week, I didn't want to leave. And Madison knew I wouldn't. "I told you," she said on the phone. "You needed rest. You needed someone who doesn't expect you to be perfect. You needed space. And maybe a man with calloused hands and a kind heart." I laughed, but there was a truth in her words I couldn't deny. Ethan never pushed. Never asked for more than I could give. He simply made space, for my thoughts, for my silence, for my healing. And somewhere in that quiet, something bloomed. A slow, steady warmth that curled into my chest and stayed there. We spent the rest of the summer together. I extended my stay, then just never left. Some nights, I'd look at him across the table, his eyes soft with unspoken affection, and wonder how he knew. How they both knew, Madison and Ethan, what I needed before I did. I was looking for something I couldn't name. And they gave it to me. Place to rest. Chance to feel whole. A quiet kind of love that didn't demand anything but honesty. Now, 2 years later, as I sip coffee on that same porch with Ethan beside me, I think back to that knock on the door. That bag of bagels. That first moment of being seen. Not for what I gave or achieved, but for who I was underneath it all. They knew what I needed before I did. And I will always be grateful.